Welcome back to the Caffeine Cast. I'm your host, Drake, and on this week's episode of the Caffeine Cast, we have a lot to talk about. So, in previous episodes, I mentioned that I'm getting new equipment, and all of that equipment is here, actually. Well, except one thing. I don't yet have a kettle or a good kettle. I have a kettle, but it's like, it's probably four years old at this point, and it's giving a really metallic taste to the coffee. I don't know what's really up with that, so I don't want to drink it if it's giving me a metallic taste. So I haven't been making pour over coffee recently. I've tested out my gear somewhat, and that's how I know that the kettle's giving me a metallic taste, is because I've tested the gear and I'm honing in my method of making coffee. So I think that's I think it's going to work out pretty good. And this is actually pour over coffee. It's Caribou coffee. I forgot what blend it is, but it's pretty decent roast. It's a medium roast coffee. Doesn't taste too bad. I still think I need to get my method down a little bit better, but it's not bad by any means. And what I used, I didn't use a gooseneck kettle because I didn't want to get that metallic taste. I actually just used a measuring cup. So not the best brew of coffee, not the proudest brew of coffee I've ever made either. But I had to make pour over coffee for the podcast. So that's one thing. I just wanted to give a little bit of a gear update. I need to order a new kettle because I went to Walmart today trying to look for, any type of gooseneck kettle, and they didn't have any. They just had like the electric kettles that that just has a little lip on it to pour, probably for like tea and stuff. So, or you could probably make French press with that, but I need to get a proper pour over brew, I need a gooseneck kettle and stuff. So that I need to wait for that to come in. And actually this week, I'm recording this on Sunday night. It's going to come out on Monday. So by the time you're seeing this, actually no, a day after this comes out, I'm leaving on a business trip, so I won't actually have enough time to probably get one and record a video. So it'll probably be a couple more weeks before I actually start making coffee videos again. I could make some energy drink videos. I did have a few energy drinks in the fridge that I wanted to review, but I ended up drinking them all and not actually writing like I was supposed to. So you're just getting some more podcasts this week because I like to talk and they're pretty easy to record. I don't have to do much preparation for them. So that doesn't mean I'm not putting time and effort into it, because I definitely am. I have to edit these videos. I watch it back and make sure the audio sound quality and camera quality is good and everything. So I'm definitely still putting time into these, but writing for a review video takes a while. But I'm going to try to get back to those here in probably the next couple weeks or so. So also we have a lot to talk about because we got some questions actually. So I accidentally closed my browser, so I'm going to have to open back up these questions here that I wanted to answer. But we did get some questions on the last podcast that I'm going to go over. And some of these questions may be a little bit harder to answer. Oh God, audio started playing really loud in my ears. Some of these questions are kind of hard to answer, and I'm going to have to gloss over a few of these questions because I'm just wildly uneducated about some of the stuff that it goes over. But I think I can answer these pretty well. So I'm going to answer the questions that directly pertain to the brewing process and sort of equipment and stuff of coffee. But, well, this isn't really a question, but it's coming from Max Ballard. He said, once you get your new coffee making equipment, I think it would be cool to do a blind taste test between different methods of making coffee, pour over, pot, etc. So I think that would be cool to do a blind taste test. I don't trust anyone else in my house to actually make the coffee, so I'd probably have to make the coffee and then have them poured into different glasses and stuff, then do a blind taste test. It would also be kind of hard because I would have to actually, I would want to taste test them all while they're hot. So that would be kind of a challenge to, set up the camera, get all the recording stuff ready before they actually get cold. So it would be a challenge to make, but it's definitely doable. And that is something that I could do in the future. But I don't think that personally I would be able to tell, this is pour over, this is French press, this is made with a coffee machine, stuff like that, I would be able to tell the differences, but I don't know if I would be able to tell the method that it was brewed with, because of course they're different depending on the brew method. It does taste a little bit different, but I don't think that I would be able to tell the specific brew method. I can tell you like coffee notes, flavors, the body of the coffee, stuff like that, and I can tell you how to make coffee, but I don't know if I could put those two together and actually pin it down to a brew method, because I don't claim to be a coffee connoisseur. I'm definitely not a professional in any means. I mean, I can review coffee, I can tell you how to make coffee, stuff like that, but I don't claim to be a coffee connoisseur. I'm a caffeine connoisseur. The purpose of this channel is just to mainly tell you, like, hey, this keeps you awake, this is good, go buy this product if you want to. That's kind of the purpose of this channel. So I don't want a bunch of angry comments saying that I'm a fraud trying to make people think that I'm a coffee connoisseur. That's not at all what I am. So just keep that in mind. So that wasn't really a question. That was just kind of a video idea. I do want to do that in the future. That would be an interesting video idea. So we'll see. We'll see in the future. So the second question that Max had is, what should I do with coffee grounds? I don't want to just throw them away. So I actually got another question that says that. It's framed in a more, or it's worded in a more long-winded way, but the other question that I got from Sam, Fox Sam, is... coffee making produce waste, namely spent on coffee grounds. What is the best method for disposing of these grounds to avoid being wasteful? Have you looked into efforts by Good Vodka or other brands to use spent coffee grounds? So my response to that question, so I'm just going to answer both of those questions. So actually, I have heard of the brand of vodka called Good Vodka. They are making they're making vodka out of coffee. I don't know the process or anything behind that, but it is actually interesting that they're doing that and actually reusing the coffee grounds. So myself, what I do with coffee grounds is when I'm done making coffee, I unfold the filter and then dump them into this little bin that I have for used coffee grounds, and then we actually use it as plant fertilizer. So coffee can actually be really good for certain plants. I couldn't give you a list of what type of plants you can use coffee on or anything, but we have a rose bush outside, and we actually put the coffee around the rose bush and everything, and actually makes the roses more vibrant. It grows a lot better, and it's more weather resistant and stuff. So definitely, if you have plants and stuff, you could use your coffee grounds for that. And actually, if you have leftover coffee in the morning and stuff, you can actually just pour those on plants, and some plants absolutely love coffee, because we have this vine thing in my house that we give coffee to sometimes, and I can tell a difference. When we're giving that thing coffee, it will grow to the ground. It honestly kind of grows out of control a little bit. Then when we just water it normally, and I'm not saying that coffee is a replacement for watering your plants, but I'm just saying if you have some leftover coffee, don't be afraid to, go pour that on some of your plants. Just make sure to do some research before, make sure that, plant is okay with coffee. But I can tell a difference when we give this vine coffee or not, because when we give it coffee, it grows out of control, but then when we normally water it, it's just, normal growth rate. So it's kind of interesting. And I have a funny story about that. My sister told one of her friends, hey, coffee's good for plants. So she started, pouring coffee on all of her plants. Then it was 2 weeks later, she's like, all my plants are dead. Why are all my plants dead? You said coffee is good for plants, but it turned out that, she's putting milk, cream, sugar, flavoring, all this other stuff in her coffee, and then putting it on plants, and the plants are molded and gross and nasty and stuff like that. So I should add a caveat there that only put black coffee on plants if you're going to do that. So I don't really have an answer for you other than that. So if you don't have plants, I'm sure that you could Google some ways to reuse coffee grounds and stuff like that, but it definitely does make good plant fertilizer, and that's what I personally do. So on to the next question. Do I need a fancy coffee grinder? I've used a NutriBullet so far, and it seems to get the job done. So yeah, it will. It will get the job done, and I'm not being a purist or anything, saying that you absolutely need a burr grinder, because that's what hand grinders use. They use burrs to actually grind the coffee, versus like a NutriBullet or most like cheaper electric grinders will just use a blade to chop up the coffee. And honestly, it will get the job done, and if you don't have the money, you can just use a normal grinder or like a blade grinder, because it does get the job done. But when you have a burr grinder, you get a more of a precise grind, so you have more control of it, and you also have a more even grind, because the way the blade works is it's just spinning in there, chopping up the coffee and stuff like that. So your grain sizes are a little bit different, even if you put it on like a setting like my electric blade grinder has like a fine, medium, and coarse grain setting, I think. So it does get the job done, but it's not as an even grind as when you have a burr grinder. And you can get electric burr grinders, but those can get very pricey very fast. So I wouldn't recommend that unless you're trying to get really into it, because even my hand grinder was like $150. So unless you're trying to spend a lot of money on it, you can use a blade grinder. I'm not going to be a purist and say that you have to use a burr grinder, but it does affect flavor, because what can happen is when you put it in your filter or whatever you use to make coffee, it can have like hot spots in it. And so when you pour I'm just going off a pour over here, when you actually make your pour and everything, it can come out being different strength and stuff. So it's just more of an even grind, and it does affect the taste quality of the coffee depending on what grind setting you use. So if you want to have perfect tasting coffee, you can get a burr grinder or a fancy coffee grinder. But if you're happy with what you got, there's no reason to go and spend a bunch of money on it. It does affect flavor, but if you're enjoying your coffee, don't feel like you have to. Let's go on to Fox Sam's questions, and I'm going to save some of these questions for a little bit later on, because there are some pretty deep questions that I don't have all the answers to. So I'm going to start with number 7. He asked 7 questions, and the first question, I want to make sure that my recording is going. Okay, yeah, I am recording. So the 7th question is, many coffee fanatics are often labeled as snobbish and annoying. Do you worry about this label being applied to yourself, and how do you deal with some of your colleagues that are snobbish or annoying? So I don't really have a fear of that being applied to me, because as I already said in this podcast, I'm not a coffee connoisseur, I am a caffeine connoisseur. So the difference there, I've already explained it. I'm just kind of reviewing the caffeine in the products. Does it keep you awake? Is it good? Stuff like that. And when I do review coffee, I give you some flavor notes and all of that. So I think there's a lot of things that also play into that snobbish and annoying sort of stereotype. I think it's just, how you are as a person, your attitude and stuff like that. I don't think I have a snobbish or annoying attitude, and I try not to be, because I want to be a good person to other people. And honestly, however you want to drink your coffee is fine with me. I have my way of drinking coffee. I can educate you on how to make what I think is better coffee. But if you're happy going to Starbucks, spending $7, $8 on a cup of coffee, then go for it. It's your money. I can't tell you what to do. Or if you just want to press a button on your Keurig every morning before you go to work, because that's what I've been doing for a long time. So I'm not gonna be really snobbish about how you want to make your coffee. I am a little bit of a purist. I do like black coffee, but and I do make some jokes every now and then. And if someone's putting creamer in their coffee, I'll be like, hey, black coffee's better. But I'm not being serious. I'm just joking around. I'm not taking it too seriously. It's just at the end of the day, it's just a drink. So do whatever you want with it, and it doesn't really matter that much. Do whatever you want with your coffee. So I'm not really worried about that label being applied to me, and I haven't really had to deal with that many people that are really snobbish or annoying about coffee. most people at work that I work with don't really care that much. There was this one guy that I worked with, but we didn't really talk about coffee that much. We just didn't really talk about it. He liked we actually did like some of the same coffee. It's called Methodical Coffee. It's based out of Greenville, South Carolina. It's a roaster here locally that I do like. And we've had that in common, but aside from that, we just didn't talk about coffee that much. So I don't really know how you would deal with those people. I mean, it's just a drink. There's no reason to get agitated or get into a fight about it. But you know how people are. You know their way is the right way and everything. So I would just say you gotta deal with your differences. So you gotta agree to disagree. That's the phrase that I was looking for. So, and then even when I was in the coffee club, I didn't really have to deal with those people because we were all on the same page about coffee. So we didn't really get into disagreements that often. I was there to learn more about coffee because they were honestly more knowledgeable about and they were more knowledgeable about coffee than I was. So I was there to learn, and I was, all ears to what they had to tell me. So I would just say to those people, you got to agree to disagree about coffee, and however you want to make coffee is fine with me. So let's get on. How far are we into the podcast? I feel like I'm flying through these questions because I've tried to record this podcast 2 other times tonight, but my camera went dead the first time, and the second time I just didn't really like how it was going, and I'm trying to not edit these podcasts as much as I possibly can. That's why I have like a half-drank cup of coffee here, is because I've already tried to record this once. I didn't want to have to. I actually brewed a second cup of coffee that when my camera died, but I'm recording this back-to-back with the other time I tried to record it, so I didn't want to have to. It's already like 10:30 p.m. and I got work tomorrow at like 6 a.m. so I didn't want to have to make another cup of coffee and everything and stay up way too late because I already know I'm going to stay up way too late to record this. So anyway, the next question, and this is where I'm going to have to put a big asterisk because I don't know much about the actual growing process of coffee. I'm going based off of instinct and what the little bit of limited knowledge I have. So take all of these answers with a grain of salt. These are going to be very opinionated questions, even though you can probably find other facts online about it. And I probably should have done some research before this, but I'm very uneducated. But I will, read the questions and answer to the best of my ability. So some of the largest coffee exporters in the world have a history of using child and or slave labor, including but not limited to Colombia, Brazil, Vietnam, and more. How do you justify drinking coffee knowing that it may have involved slave labor before reaching you? So that is true. There is a lot of slave labor involved in coffee production, but there's also a lot, and I'm not trying to justify it by any means, but there is also a lot of slave labor involved in, technology. Computers, iPhones, probably this microphone, and that's because of cobalt mining. Cobalt mining is a very, very bad industry. I'm not trying to expose myself for being a Joe Rogan listener, but I did listen to a Joe Rogan podcast recently about, cobalt mining and someone that was actually there in the Congo, actually like on some of these mining sites and actually had some like firsthand experience with it. So it's a big problem, and I don't by any means, I'm just a caffeine reviewer. I don't have the answer to the problem. But as far as coffee goes, I think the best thing that you can do is try to find a roaster that has regulations around it and actually says like fair trade on it and everything, because there's not much that you can really do about it unless you have, money and power to make changes. And even then, it's in a different country, and it's really hard to make changes to the government in some of those countries. So I think the best thing that I can do about it is raise awareness for growers roasters that have direct contact with the growers, because I know one company called Eastlit Coffee Company that excuse me, been talking a lot today. Eastlit Coffee Company, that is someone that I've reviewed on this channel. They have direct contact with the growers in Brazil, and they actually go there and actually have, they actually talked to the growers, because I forgot what her name is. It starts with the R, but it's pronounced with an H. Hernata Eastlick, I think is her name. She actually is from Brazil. She's the voice actor for Cav in Rainbow Six Siege. God, I can't speak. I've been talking too much today. My voice is dead. But she's Brazilian and actually goes to Brazil and has like firsthand interactions with these people in Brazil that is growing the coffee. So that's sort of what I want to promote on my channel. I definitely want to review coffee that comes from those growers, and definitely put those roasters and coffee producers, definitely promote them, because what they're doing is good. But even with some of those regulations in place, you never know exactly where you're getting it from. So you just got to do your research and really know where you're buying your coffee from before you buy it, if you want to make a difference, and if you want to feel good about your purchase. So that's what I'm going to try to do on my channel. I'm going to try to promote some of those, and hopefully, not promote, bad coffee on my channel that could be grown in unethical ways. And the second question of that Fox Sam asking, God, who is blowing up my phone right now? Good Lord. I just got 16 text messages all from the same person. Good Lord. I'm not going to answer them right now, but God, that's a lot of text. So question number 2, sort of tied to the first question, even in best conditions, coffee growers rarely see above 10% of the profits in the production / distribution. Good Lord, stop texting me. Sort of tied to the first question, even in best conditions, coffee growers rarely see above 10% of the profits in the production / distribution chain. Is that ethical, and how do you deal with that? So I'm going to take my fucking watch off. God. It's not even, I know it's nothing important, because I know who it's coming from and I know what they're talking about, so I'm not going to answer it right now. So how do you deal with that? So it's sort of the same as the first question. You just got to know who you're buying from, because it's getting better and better. There's a lot of producers, independent coffee roasters and stuff, and coffee producers these days that do have direct contact with the growers, and I think that you just need to know where it's coming from and buy from those producers. I don't really know what to call them: producers, growers, roasters, coffee companies. Just buy from those coffee companies that they do. And now my phone is dinging. What the hell? I'm gonna put it on do not disturb. Put it off screen over here, so I not even seeing it. But that is ridiculous what they're texting me about. Just know who you're buying from. That's the main thing I can tell you. Just know who you're buying from. And on my channel, I'm going to try to review a lot of those, independent coffee companies that are doing the right thing, so you know where it's coming from and stuff like that. So that's really the best answer that I can give you to those questions. I'm a small YouTube channel, and I don't make enough money to make a change in the space, but I will try to raise awareness about those companies that you can buy from that do produce coffee in ethical means, that are ethical about producing their coffee. God, my brain is dead today. Here at Caffeine Connoisseurs, we're really professional. We definitely know how our equipment works and have the best equipment. That is all sarcastic, because my Canon G7X Mark II, which I originally got as a vlog camera for another channel that I was trying to make at one point, it can only record for about 22 minutes without stopping, and it's regardless of what memory card you have. So eventually I'm going to have to upgrade my camera, but currently I don't have the money for that. So the way that you can help me get more gear is like and subscribe, and hopefully in the future we can get some better gear that doesn't stop recording at 20 minutes, because I'm going to complain about it every podcast until we get a new camera, because there's going to be a cut in the video and I just want to tell you what's happening. Anyway, on with the questions. Number 3 from Fox Sam is climate change is a threat to millions of species around the world, but coffee in particular could be under extreme threat. Some estimates claim that 60% of wild species will be extinct by 2050, and 50% of the coffee farming land will be unfarmable by 2100. What actions should we take to avoid this, and should coffee drinkers be concerned? So at this point, I don't think there's any reason to be concerned. I think it's still we do have scientific data from this, and I'm a little bit uneducated on the topic, so it could take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. But good Lord, now they're coming through. Why? Why are you texting me so much? Now the messages are coming through on my MacBook, and it's up to 26 text messages. Holy shit, stop texting me. So anyway, I haven't personally looked at the data, but from my limited knowledge about this topic, I don't think there's any reason to be concerned, because we are making scientific advances in farming, and regenerative farming is actually picking up as far as I'm aware. So I don't think that we should be worried yet, and I think that we can definitely, by 2050, we can make a lot of changes, and I think that more and more people are becoming aware of climate change. So I think that it's really too early to tell. There is definitely regenerative farming that is taking place. I'm not sure how much of that is actually used for coffee, but I do think it's too early to tell, and I don't think we should be concerned about coffee just yet. And as far as climate change goes, coffee is the least thing to be concerned about. So, I don't think there's any worry yet from, my limited knowledge about the topic. So number 4 was just about coffee waste and all that. Put it on your flowers, make some fertilizer out of it, stuff like that. So I'm going to skip to question number 5. The origin of the coffee break is intrinsically capitalistic. As a means to siphon more work from underpaid corporate employees, is that problematic in the modern era, and does caffeine still feed the cyclical work environment? So I don't think it's really that much of a problem in the modern era. If you look at like Silicon Valley and their headquarters and their work offices, there's a lot more issues in those work offices other than coffee, because now they're putting gyms, daycares, movie theaters in their offices to get workers to stay there longer. And I definitely think that's more of a problem than coffee, because a lot of people do get coffee at their workplace. A lot of workplaces do give free coffee, and I think that's a pretty good thing, and you should definitely get coffee from your workplace if it's free, rather than going to Starbucks and buying a $7 or $8 cup of coffee, when you could be getting it free from other places, and probably get it at better quality. Not trying to be a snob or anything, but I don't really think it's that much of a problem. I mean, everybody's addicted to caffeine in this modern era, so I don't think that's what's keeping people at work anymore. It used to be a problem with definitely factory workers, and if you guys have any other experiences, because I'm just speaking from my personal experience and what I know. So if you guys have any other experience, comment down below. But I don't think it's a problem anymore. I definitely think it is a problem that, in Silicon Valley, don't get me wrong, there are some really cool office spaces out in like Silicon Valley. They have some, and hell, if there was a gym at my workplace, that would make my schedule so much easier. But I don't think coffee is the root of these problems anymore. I think it's good that corporations give free coffee, and I've been to places that have some really, like office buildings that have some really good coffee makers. I'm really impressed by them. So if you have access to those coffee makers, like, you can make some really good coffee. But I don't think it's that much of a problem. And hey, as long as you don't feel like you're being taken advantage of, definitely, I don't think it's that much of a problem. I think you would have to go on a person by person, corporation by corporation, company by company basis to really, say if it's a problem or not. But it definitely was a problem when, the coffee break sort of first originated. But at this point, I don't think that's the only thing that's keeping workers at work. So let's go on to question number 6. So how do you feel about the trend of putting coffee into tons of consumable goods that arguably do not need coffee in them, i.e. shampoo, soap, hot sauce, wine, whiskey, gum, candles, and more? So whiskey, in like coffee and whiskey type, alcoholic coffee, stuff like that, it's actually pretty good. I don't really have a problem with those because I can review it for my channel. That's kind of a selfish purpose, but definitely that are like drinks and stuff that have coffee in them. I think it's good because it's good for the coffee market. It's getting more and more people into coffee, and I think it's an overall net positive. Now, there are a lot of people that are addicted to caffeine. Would we be better without caffeine? I don't really know. I don't think we would because, as long as you're a healthy person, you're drinking caffeine responsibly, I don't think there's really that much of a problem with it. And then as far as like other things like soap, shampoo, stuff like that, I have heard that caffeine is good for your hair. I don't know what the scientific data says about that, but as far as I know, I don't think there's a problem with it. I think that, as a consumer, you should definitely do your research before buying these products. It could be, well, it probably is more of a cash grab more than anything because caffeine is being put into literally everything at this point. And I actually haven't seen like coffee specifically going into gum or like coffee flavored gum. I'm sure it exists, knowing how the market is with coffee and stuff. I've seen caffeine gum, and I definitely don't have a problem with caffeine gum. I think it's a good way to get caffeine, especially if you don't like coffee and you have a caffeine addiction. It's probably better than energy drinks and stuff like that. So I don't really think it's a problem. I don't think it's a bad thing. I just think you need to be an educated consumer. Just learn about the product before you buy it. And yeah, so I can review some of those products on my channel if you guys want me to, because I think that would be an interesting video to see how those would work. Do they keep you awake? Stuff like that. Because like I reviewed the Grinds caffeine pouches. It's supposed to be able to get you off of like nicotine and stuff like that. It's supposed to be a replacement for like dip, and I think those type of products are really good. It doesn't have that much caffeine in them, which I was a little bit disappointed about. Not something that I would do every day, but hey, if you enjoy those products, buy them. I don't really see a problem with it. So yeah, that's my take on it. And then question number 7 was just about, coffee fanatics being labeled as snobs and stuff like that. So I've already answered that question, and we are 32 minutes into the podcast. So something else that I wanted to talk about a little bit was my experience in the coffee club at Clemson University. And those are some pretty cool dudes. They're trying to do a lot, trying to get coffee started at Clemson. Clemson already makes some really good ice cream that they use from their like agriculture stuff. They actually make it with their own like dairy products that they farm on campus. So I think that's pretty cool. And these guys are trying to do the same with coffee. They're trying to get Clemson, to be an established, seller of coffee. And when I was there, it was just getting started. So we weren't really doing too much yet, but we had some big plans because I was sort of like on the board there at the coffee club, but I didn't stay, of course. So our plans was mainly to start roasting more beans, scale up production, and eventually be able to, make a revenue stream for the coffee club, because we got like a $10,000 grant, and I had like a breakdown that I should have kept and shared on the channel because it's insane that they got almost a $10,000 grant. I think it was like 9,000 some odd dollars, some odd cents or something that they actually got, but I'm just going to round up to 10,000. But that's insane for a coffee club to get $10,000 for coffee. I mean, you can spend that much on coffee too. Like the grinder that we had for coffee, I don't know how much that thing cost, but it was expensive and it was nice too. And we got like a real espresso machine. It was really good stuff there. I don't know really where I was going with that, but oh yeah, just the plans that we had for the coffee club. It was really cool what they were trying to do. And my camera is about to go dead, so I may have to actually wrap up this podcast soon. Cut it a little bit short today after answering those questions, but I will finish my train of thought here. So while I was there, I actually did get to roast some coffee, and it did turn out pretty good. Most of the coffee that we were doing was a light roast, because light roast, you get more of the flavors, more of the notes in the coffee. It has a little bit more of a fruity, tea-like flavor, pretty good. And I actually did learn to enjoy light roast coffee and learned a lot about the roasting process. But we just did like small batch manual roasts, and it was really cool how we did it. We had this like little like pot thing that we had put it in, and it had a cord that connected to a computer, and you connected it to a software. And it was a lot like making like stovetop popcorn. You would put it over a burner and like move it in a circular motion for the entire time you were roasting. It was a pretty, physically intensive process if you don't like work out or anything, and like actually have a little bit of like stamina to just sit there and do this for 30 minutes. And we would keep doing that, and almost just like popcorn, you would have what they called like a first crack. And once you heard that first crack, you would start a timer on the computer, and then depending on what type of roast you were trying to make, it would set a timer for you, and you would keep shaking it and roasting it until that timer went off. And then it would tell you when you got to a light roast, when you got to a medium roast, how you got to it, when you got to a dark roast, and stuff like that. So it was actually a pretty cool what we were doing, and I would love to do it again, but unfortunately it's a really messy process, and I don't really have an area where I'd be able to do that. And it's a lot of mess to clean up, but maybe in the future I would try to get into that, maybe make a video on it. I still know some people in the coffee club, so if the YouTube channel starts getting bigger, definitely like and subscribe and everything so that it does. And maybe I could reach out to the people of the coffee club. And there is a strand of hair in my coffee. Am I still going to drink it? Yeah, probably, because it's probably my own hair, to be honest. I don't know where else it would come from. So, but yeah, it was a really cool process that we had going on. It's a really small operation, but maybe in the future I could, do a collaboration with them, because I still have a lot of contacts there, know some of the people, and I'm sure that hands have changed by this point, because the guys that were doing it were like junior and senior year, so they're probably mostly hands off by this point. But maybe in the future I could actually do a collaboration with them. I'm still on pretty good terms. I didn't just leave them up high and dry or anything, but yeah, kind of did, honestly. I told them like I had a kind of big role in the coffee club. I was making their website, doing a little bit of social media promotion, stuff like that. And then I was like, hey guys, I'm dropping out of school. See ya. So, but no, they're pretty cool guys. I'm still on good terms with them and everything, so I could reach out to them at some point, see who's running things nowadays, and try to maybe do some interviews and get a little bit more knowledge about caffeine. So, we've been going for a while now. I think I'm going to wrap it up because my camera is going dead. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below, and I'll try my best to answer them in the next podcast. Hopefully in the next few weeks, we'll start doing actual reviews again. I have some energy drinks that I want to review, but I'm going to have to type a script, and I'm going on a business trip, so it'll probably be still a while, but I'll still be making podcasts and stuff like that. So anyway, make sure to like the video and subscribe and all of that to keep updated on all of my most recent podcasts. Hey, maybe I'll even put these on its own channel soon. You never know. So yeah, I will see you guys in the next video, and yeah, peace.